What's up, Tim Sykes, millionaire mentor and trader here with an amazing video with my first millionaire student, Michael Goode. He was also my first online hater, but things have changed. Check this out.
The most important part of trading is preparing a watch list, preparing to make trades. It's not watching the stocks, it's not even making the actual trades. If you don't have a plan going into the trading day, going into trying to make a trade, then you're going to do something wrong and you're going to lose money. It's almost certain, unless you've been trading for 30 years successfully and it's all just subconscious, you just know what to do without thinking. And even guys that I know that have been trading much longer than me, it's still all about planning and preparing for trades. So the most important time of the day for me is in pre-market, preparing my watch list, looking at stocks that I might be interested in trading. The first thing really comes from the prior day. I might look at it the prior night, run scans, looking for stocks that have made big runs, because one of my prime trading strategies is shorting supernova moves, where a stock goes up 100%, 200% in a few days. So I'll know which stocks are big runners. I'll look at the chart, decide what might be a good entry to short that stock, and if I'm being diligent, and again, I've been doing this for a decade and it makes a difference. If I write it down, I do better. I stick to my trade plan more. I'll say, okay, this is support, this is resistance, I'll short here, and if it goes against me, I'll cover here, and then I set up what I actually plan to do in that trade. And then I'll look at stocks that are gapping up in the morning. At this conference, one of the things I talked about was shorting stocks that gap up on news that's not really very meaningful, or as I call it, fluffy news. And that's something that I've looked at a lot in the past. I know a couple other successful traders do that, and I haven't actually gone and done a whole lot of those trades. Over the last couple of years, I have done about 39 of those trades, been profitable, decent profit, made $4,000, yay, but I just haven't consistently made those trades. So what I do is I look for the stocks gapping up on not very meaningful news. Well, sorry, I look for all stocks gapping up, and then I read through the news, try to figure out why they're gapping up. If they're not gapping up on news, if there's no news whatsoever, then I don't trade it, at least not for this strategy. I might do something else with it, but that's not part of this strategy. So I mean, how you prepare for the trading day, it all depends on what your strategies are. So if you're going to be buying stocks that are gapping up on good news, then that's going to be totally different than me shorting stocks that are gapping up on not very meaningful news. So with the ones I'm looking to short, I'll read through the news, think about it, possibly, depending on how complicated it is, go back in time, compare it to other information about the company, decide whether it's meaningful or not, look at the chart, see if the stock has a history of spiking and holding its gains, or if it has a history of gap and crap, so where it gaps up and then just drops most of the day. And if both those things align, where I think the news isn't really meaningful and there's a history of gap and craps, then I'll be looking to short maybe at the open, maybe into an initial spike. And then prior resistance on the chart will determine where my stop loss is. And again, I'm not perfectly clear on all this because this is a relatively new strategy for me. I'm not exactly sure how I will trade it. I will certainly refine the strategy over the coming months. But that's what I do for another strategy. If you want to buy stocks that are gapping up on good news, obviously you do much the same research. Look for stocks gapping up, then read through the news, get a feeling for whether it's important or not. You want to look at the float, because if you want to buy a stock, you want to buy a stock with a low float. Take a look at the SEC filings to make sure there's no outstanding registration statements where they have like convertible warrants or some extra shares where there can be dilution happening, because those stocks are not going to be able to hold the gains. And then you look, say after the open, look for an initial dip, look for a double bottom, look for whatever it is that predicts that this stock is about to start its run without a lot of risk, and then you get in. And again, Some of those things, for some strategies, you can't plan it all before the market opens, but you should certainly plan it before you make the trade. Otherwise, you'll get into the trade, and it's tempting, if the trade goes against you, to just say, oh, I'll give it a little more time. I'll give it a little more time. And that's how little losses turn into big losses. Now, there's other strategies I have too. For example, looking at pure pump and dumps, and I do sort of a long-term short on them. I wait until the stock has achieved a decent amount of volume, looking for hundreds of thousands, if not more than 1 million shares traded per day on a stock, say $1 to $2. And once it's had a week or 2 weeks of big volume like that, I'll just look if I can get a long-term borrow at Interactive Brokers and just short. And then I short and I hold. And it really is that simple. I don't really have a stop loss unless it starts going really parabolic. And those are great trades. And all I have to do is keep an eye on which stocks are being promoted and which stocks that are being promoted have good volume. So really, the preparation, how to build your watch list, it all depends on what kind of trades you're going to do, what strategies you have. And it's all going to be a little different, the preparation, depending on what strategy you're using.
What's up, Tim Sykes, millionaire mentor and trader, here with an amazing video with one of my most dedicated students. His name is Roland. He started with just $4,000. He's actually closing in on $700,000 as of this moment. You might have seen some previous interviews with him when he was up 100,000, 200,000. It just keeps going. He's got a beautiful family and he's got a great strategy. Check this out.
So when I'm making a watch list, I try to keep it pretty simple. It's the first thing I do when the market closes. So it's 1 p.m. on the West Coast, 4 p.m. on the East Coast. Right when market closes, first thing I do is go through my scans, go through the charts for what was moving that day. I may go through some previous runners from the week before, from days prior, and try to come up with a plan, be it dip buying to the previous day's support or whatever that is. I will compile my list of tickers that I would like to trade the next day, and then come up with an individual plan for each one. Now, being long biased, most of the time, I'm not necessarily going to be playing stocks for my watch list, and that's what's kind of tricky. I find for short sellers, it may be easier to have plans that they can create and stick to and actually profit from the next day. But as a long, a lot of times we're playing new news. So news comes out in the morning, and that's why for me, I do build my watch list in the afternoons, but the pre-market process for me is almost more important for the long side, because we're always have new news coming out, new gappers in the morning that won't be on your watch list. And that's kind of frustrating at first, because you build your watch list and then you don't ever get to play tickers from them. But that's not the case. I mean, sometimes, 25% of the time or so, I'm actually nailing plans for my watch list the night before. So I still do that only because I know that I can still profit from my plans, and it's good to know. It's good to go through all the tickers over and over again, build plans, then watch what happens the next day. But that being said, like the pre-market, I basically revamp my watch list when new tickers come up, and that's super important because you need to have your trade plans. So I do my watch list in the afternoon, but then I also revamp that in the morning to account for new tickers that are running, new news, find my risk reward, find my levels, chart out my levels, whatever I have to do, and that gets me prepared for market open the next morning.
Hey, Tim Sykes, millionaire mentor and trader. Thank you for watching my videos. I hope that they help you. I want to share everything that I've learned over the years. You can check out more videos right over there, and also click subscribe so that you can watch all of these videos, get that knowledge, and become my next millionaire student.